Our hero for today, we're going to go back to guessing who the hero is. Okay? So, this hero led the Israelites into the promised land. We got done with Moses. And he went into the promised land with the Israelites. So, it was not Moses. Moses did not enter the promised land. Not Abraham. Joshua it is. Okay. Um, Moving on to our little study on Joshua. He was known as a valiant leader, right? And while I sat down to prepare for today's hero, I thought I should dedicate this one to leaders, to aspiring leaders. So then, Amanda, what's in it for the others? Is this session only for Godfrey or someone who wants to be a Godfrey tomorrow? Who is a leader, if I may ask? A person who has followers, or just like the term in itself says, one that leads. Right? Is there any dictionary definition that says you need 70 candidates and then you qualify to be a leader? Is there a number to it? Can you be a leader to just one person? Like even for if you took the example of a trekker, right? When you go on group treks, you'll have a leader. And sometimes on those treks, only one or two people sign up. But they'll still have a trek leader who knows their way through that entire trek. He'll take the lead, and then there'll be someone that's known as a sweeper who will just sweep through at the end. He will be the last person in the trek just to make sure that no one's lost and everyone's together. Right? So, like that example suggests, you can be a leader even if it means leading one person. And leading them into what? Probably a better way of life, probably an encouragement, probably a support. You don't have to be a Godfrey Fernandez or the likes. Yeah? So as I start through with this session on Joshua, think about your neighborhood, your school, your college, your work. You don't have to be a leader. You don't have to be someone that leads a bunch of people. But think about who you can lead, who you can support in your daily walk with God, in your daily lives. Yeah? So Joshua was a valiant leader, courageous in battle, unfailing in duty, faithful to God. This was Joshua. Moses could always count on Joshua during the dramatic exodus out of Egypt. He was always there when needed. Joshua commanded the defensive efforts when the well-armed Amalekites attacked in the deserts. He and his friend Caleb were among 12 spies sent as scouts into Canaan. Joshua and Caleb insisted they could take the land if they remained faithful to God's leading. Before dying, Moses appointed Joshua to take his place as leader. God blessed Joshua with wisdom and courage. God stopped the waters of the Jordan River from flowing so the people could cross into the promised land without boats or bridges. As Joshua prepared to invade the well-fortified city of Jericho, God provided specific directions for the siege. Joshua obeyed, even though the orders seemed foolish by military standards. After 7 days of marching around the city walls, the priests blew their ram horns. Then all the Israelites shouted, and ta-da, the Jericho walls collapsed. During a later battle, Joshua commanded the sun to stand still so his warriors could vanquish the enemy before nightfall. The sun obeyed. The Israelites won the battle, just as God promised they would. After conquering Canaan, Joshua used his geographic skills to even establish boundaries and to divide the land fairly among the 12 tribes. Before he died, Joshua addressed his people, urging them to remain faithful to God and not to worship idols. Choose this day whom you will serve, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua 24, verses 15. And to all of us seated here, the labeled Christians, right? We may think, oh, this verse is not really relevant to me. I'm not someone of a different faith who has an idol in my house. And therefore, this verse is really no challenge to me. But think about, what in your walk with God do you idolize? Yeah. What is that one thing you really hold on to? Like, this Hollywood guy is my idol. This Bollywood actress is my idol. This mentor of mine at work or in college, or this teacher, oh, she's my idol. And I encourage y'all to work on yourselves to not idolize anyone and just be faithful to that one true God. I'd like to take a few minutes to dwell on Joshua, the chosen leader, on the story of the Jericho wall. Have you ever played follow the leader with a lousy leader? I have, in a few instances growing up, but as an adult today, I've been on treks with lousy leaders. Yep, you don't know the trek, you don't know the route, you don't know nothing. You follow that leader, very confident that he or she knows the way. And when you get on that trek and it gets exhausting, the leader comes and says, oops, I may have just made a wrong turn. Turn around, everybody, we got to find our way out. It's happened to me. And I'm sure in all of your individual lives, you may have come across a time where you followed a lousy leader. And you know how that turned out for you. Maybe someone led you down a steep, rocky path and you knew you shouldn't go down it. If so, then you know how important it is to have a good leader, someone who will keep you safe and help you find the right way to go. The Israelites had been following Moses through the wilderness for 40 years. He was a good leader, but he had grown old. His time on earth was ending. God told Moses to choose Joshua as Israel's new leader. Moses called Joshua to him and said, "You will lead this people into the promised land. Be strong, be brave, because the Lord himself will be with you. He will not leave you or forget you. So don't be afraid and don't be worried." Moses then climbed up on Mount Nebo. There, God allowed him to see the promised land. Moses died on the mountain and God buried him. With Moses gone, Joshua became Israel's leader. He marched the Israelites to the edge of the Jordan River. It was time to take on the promised land. Moses had been a good leader because he followed God. God chose Joshua to lead because Joshua followed him too. One day, you and I will have the chance to be a leader in any capacity. Just make sure you are ready then by following God now. What you believe determines what you do. Some people think that to win, they must do things their own way. But Joshua, one of Israelites' greatest warriors, knew that victory didn't come from himself or his strength. It came from obeying God, the one with real power and the real strength. Joshua obeyed God even when what God asked him to do just didn't make sense. I touched upon it earlier, but I'd like to just talk about it in depth. One of Joshua's very first challenges as Israel's leader was the Battle of Jericho. He knew it would be a tough battle. The city was surrounded by towering walls, and the chances of Joshua and his men knocking down those walls on their own were pretty much zero. But Joshua wasn't on his own. God sent an angel, the commander of his heavenly armies, to tell Joshua exactly how to win. God's plan, though, was unlike any battle plan Joshua had ever heard. Does anyone know what the plan is or was? Anybody? Any guesses of what the battle strategy was for Joshua? Yeah, and that's why I said it sounded pretty foolish, like based on military standards. Can you imagine our Indian Army doing that? Yeah? Just think about it today, no? What our Indian Army does to protect the country and the borders. And then there's this great guy, God, that says, okay, son, I got a plan for you. This is going to be your battle strategy. All you got to do is march around the city, blow trumpets, shout. It just didn't make sense, does it? It's not very often that we see a battle strategy like that. In fact, I don't think we have any battle strategy like that in today's day and age. Joshua trusted the Lord anyways. For 7 days, the Israelites marched around the walls of Jericho. After 7 laps on the seventh day, they blew the trumpets and shouted, and Jericho's massive walls tumbled down. Imagine how different that story would have been if Joshua had decided to do things his own way. Those walls would have stayed right where they were. The next time you're tempted to do things your own way, remember Joshua and those tumbling walls and follow God's direction. If you'd like to learn more about the life of Joshua, your reference would be Deuteronomy 31 to 34 and the entire chapter, book of Joshua, of course, but in emphasis, Joshua chapter 1 and Joshua chapter 5 and 6 on the story I just went through. Moving on to our hero training for the week. The world likes leaders who are tough and strong and proud. But do you think this was Jesus' way of leadership? Do you think Jesus encouraged leaders to be tough, strong, and proud? Let's read from the Bible about how Jesus defined leadership. Turn your Bibles with me to Mark chapter 10, verses 42 to 45. Whoever gets the passage first, feel free to read. Mark chapter 10, verses 42 to 45. That's right. Jesus never defined leadership as worldly kings that are tyrants or officials that lord, that boss over people. Jesus' style of leadership, and Jesus encourages each one of us to be leaders that are servants for the ones that we lead. Yeah? Lead by example and be their servants. Right? So very often I think about our government and the travel enthusiast that I am, different countries that I travel to. I see a lot of these politicians actually living the dream, living that dream leadership that Jesus talked about. I've seen politicians on cycles going into work, politicians that get on the road and work with people, greet people. But here in our country today, our leaders, they're not really, they're essentially supposed to be servants to all of us. They're supposed to serve us, the citizens of this country. But instead, they're escorted with black cats, Z security, convoys, and all of it. But Jesus' style of leadership was never this. And as we see different stories of the Bible, of how Jesus led people as well, he was always amongst the people. He always served the people. And he was always there, readily available to just about anyone. The prostitutes, the paralyzed people, the blind people, the debtors, all of them. That's who our Jesus was. And let's strive to have that sort of leadership in our lives on a day-to-day basis. Moving on, when you choose to obey Jesus' teachings, what does that say about how you feel about him? Let's turn into John chapter 14, verses 23 to get the answer to that question. John chapter 14, verses 23. Jesus replied, "All those who love me will do what I say. My Father will love them, and we will come to them and live with them." I repeat the question. When you choose to obey Jesus' teachings, what does that say about how you feel about him? What was that feeling we heard in the verse? The verse talks about when you obey God's teachings, you love God. Yeah, it's so easy for us, like even Kim mentioned in worship today, that we say, "Oh, I love God. I love Jesus. I love God. I love my God." And we say it with a lot of pride, right? But let's do a rain check on ourselves. If we truly love God, do we walk that path and obey His teachings? It's hard, of course, at times. We're humans at the end of the day. But let's strive to follow Jesus' teachings and really show in our day to day lives, in our words, in our actions, that we truly love God. Let's just not be the lip service guys that say, "Oh, I love God, I love God, I love God, but oh, I don't follow His teachings." That's no good to any of us. So when we say, "I love God," let's follow through with our words and our actions. Lastly, I'd like to leave with you all the Be a Hero challenge. Being a good leader is more than just making sure you're living the right way. It's also about encouraging others to do the same. For example, defending someone who's being bullied is great, but it's just as great it's just as great to encourage a bully to be kind to others. Who can you encourage today to do the right thing? The other challenge I'd like to leave with y'all is God gave Joshua unexpected directions to defeat Israel's enemy. He has also given us directions about how to fight our enemies, and they are just as surprising as some of the regulations I spoke about earlier when Joshua had to deal with Jericho. Jesus said to pray for our enemies. Next time you're mad at somebody, try praying for him or her. You might be surprised at how God answers. Thank you and have a lovely week.